If you look at the satellite feed over Detroit and Windsor right now, you see two things. You see the Ambassador Bridge, old, crowded, privately owned, choking on 18-wheelers. And then just down the river, you see the future. The Gordie Howe International Bridge, massive, gleaming, 6 lanes of concrete and steel that were supposed to save the North American economy. It was supposed to open next month. It was supposed to be the handshake that sealed the deal between Canada and the United States for the next 50 years. But 48 hours ago, Donald Trump decided to turn that handshake into a fist. He didn't just threaten tariffs this time. He threatened to keep the gates locked. He went on Truth Social at 3 a.m. and declared that the United States would not staff the customs plaza on the American side unless Canada met a list of impossible demands. He thought he was holding a knife to Canada's throat. He thought Prime Minister Mark Carney would panic, fly to Mar-a-Lago, and kiss the ring. But that's not what happened. Carney didn't fly to Florida. He didn't even raise his voice. He walked into a press room in Ottawa, looked directly into the camera, and pulled a lever that Washington didn't even know existed. If you thought the trade war was scary before, you need to see what just happened. Because Trump tried to corner Canada. Carney didn't blink. And now the consequences are about to hit every factory floor, every grocery store, and every gas station in America. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this bridge became the most dangerous place on earth. I'm going to show you the Option C document that Carney just activated. And I'm going to tell you why the President of the United States is suddenly very, very quiet. Let's get everyone on the same page because this moved fast. For years, the Gordie Howe Bridge has been building toward completion. It's a project Canada largely paid for, billions of dollars, to ensure that trade keeps flowing. It is the single most important piece of infrastructure in the Northern Hemisphere. Yesterday, the ribbon cutting was practically scheduled. Then the notification dropped. The White House sent a memo to the Department of Homeland Security ordering a halt on all personnel transfers to the new Gordie Howe port of entry. In simple English, Trump is refusing to put border agents in the booths. If there are no agents, the bridge cannot open. If the bridge doesn't open, billions of dollars in trade remain bottlenecked at the old bridge, which is exactly what Trump wants. He wants to create a crisis, choke off the supply chain, and then tell Canada, if you want this bridge to open, you destroy your dairy management system, you ban all Chinese EVs, and you pay us a security fee of $500 per truck. It was a classic Trump shakedown. Create the problem, then sell the solution. The American media immediately started running the headlines. Trump blocks the bridge, Canada in crisis. Trudeau would have folded, but Mark Carney isn't Justin Trudeau. 3 hours after the White House memo leaked, Carney's office released a short statement. It didn't mention Trump. It didn't mention the demands. It simply said that the government of Canada is reviewing the operational status of energy infrastructure corridors in the Great Lakes region. That sounds boring, right? That sounds like bureaucratic nonsense. It's not. It is a threat so precise and so devastating that it took Wall Street about 10 minutes to figure it out. Carney isn't fighting for the bridge. He's threatening to turn off the lights in the Midwest. You are watching a poker game where one guy is betting with chips and the other guy is betting with the electricity grid. And for the first time in a long time, the guy in the White House looks confused. You need to understand why this bridge matters and why Carney's countermove is terrifying the smart money in New York. I want to give you the receipts right now. Receipt 1, the choke point. Look at the numbers. The Windsor-Detroit corridor handles roughly 25% of all trade between the U.S. and Canada. We are talking about $300 to $400 million crossing that river every single day. But it's not just stuff, it's how the stuff is made. An average car part, a fuel injector, a seat frame, a transmission gear, crosses that border up to 7 times before the car is finished. 7 times. If you block that flow, or if you slow it down by even 3 hours, the assembly lines in Michigan, Ohio, and Kentucky don't just slow down, they stop. When Trump threatens to keep the new bridge closed, he is keeping that system under stress. He is betting that Canada needs to sell those parts more than America needs to buy them. Receipt 2, the energy map. This is the receipt Trump forgot to read. Carney's threat mentioned energy infrastructure corridors. Here is what that means. Line 5, if you don't know what Line 5 is, you're about to. It's a massive pipeline that carries crude oil and natural gas liquids from Western Canada through Wisconsin and Michigan to refineries in Ontario and, crucially, back into Michigan and Ohio. It supplies 55% of Michigan's statewide propane needs. It supplies the jet fuel for Detroit Metro Airport. It supplies the refineries in Toledo that make gas for the Midwest. For years, the governor of Michigan has tried to shut it down for environmental reasons. Canada has fought to keep it open using a 1977 treaty. Carney's subtle threat yesterday, he's hinting that maybe Canada doesn't need to fight for Line 5 anymore. If Canada decides to restrict the flow of oil into that pipeline on their side of the border, citing market review or supply management, Michigan runs out of propane in weeks. Toledo refineries run dry. Gas prices in the swing, states that Trump needs, they don't just go up, they double. Receipt 3, the market reaction. You want to know who believes Carney? Look at the bond markets. The moment the news hit that Carney was reviewing energy corridors, the Canadian dollar didn't crash. It actually ticked up. Why? Because traders know that Canada holds the commodities. Meanwhile, futures for Midwest heating oil spiked 4% in 20 minutes. That is the market telling you that they know Trump is bluffing, and they know Carney has the actual barrel of oil. Receipt 4, the union silence. Here is the dog that didn't bark. Usually when Trump announces a protectionist move, the Teamsters and the UAW are the first ones cheering. Protect American jobs. Close the border. Go check their Twitter feeds right now. Silence. Why? Because the UAW knows that the Gordie Howe Bridge isn't a Canadian project. It's a survival project for Detroit automakers. They know that if that bridge stays closed, Ford and GM lose billions to competitors in Mexico and the South. They are back-channeling the White House right now, screaming at Trump to cut a deal, and Carney knows it. So why is Trump doing this? And why is it spiraling out of his control so fast? We have to look at the psychology of the bully. Trump operates on a very simple algorithm. Maximize pressure, wait for the victim to break, accept a concession, declare victory. He did it to Mexico with the migrant caravans. He did it to NATO with defense spending. And he tried to do it to Canada with the aluminum tariffs back in his first term. But the world has changed since 2016. And Canada has changed. Trump is losing control because he is using a 20th century weapon against a 21st century economy. He thinks the border is a gate he can lock, but the border isn't a gate anymore. It's a server. It's a pipeline. It's a just-in-time delivery algorithm. When he threatens to block the bridge, he thinks he's blocking Canadian lumber and Canadian steel. He thinks he's punishing foreigners. But because of 30 years of integration, he's punishing his own voters. If he blocks the bridge, the factory in Grand Rapids shuts down. The truck driver in Toledo loses his route. The construction site in Pennsylvania runs out of materials. He is punching himself in the face and waiting for Canada to say, ouch. And the reason he is panicking, and you can see it in the frantic tweets, the all-caps rants about ungrateful neighbors, is that he realizes his leverage is fake. He can't actually afford a trade war with Canada. Not right now. Not with inflation where it is. Not with the midterms coming up. He needs cheap energy. Canada has it. He needs aluminum for his defense contracts. Canada has it. He needs uranium for his nuclear expansion. Canada has it. Canada is not China. We don't sell you cheap plastic junk you can buy from Vietnam instead. We sell you the stuff your civilization is built on. Energy, food, minerals. Trump is used to dealing with countries that need his consumer market. He is not used to dealing with a country that owns his supply chain. And he is definitely not used to dealing with a leader like Mark Carney. Let's talk about the man on the other side of the table. Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of Canada, former governor of the Bank of England, the man who managed the G7 financial crisis. This is not a drama teacher. This is not a career politician who speaks in sound bites. Carney is a central banker. He thinks in terms of risk premiums, leverage ratios, and systemic shocks. When Trudeau fought Trump, he tried to charm him. He tried to appeal to shared history. He gave him photos of his dad. Carney treats Trump like a distressed asset. Notice what Carney didn't do. He didn't call Trump names. He didn't rally a protest. He didn't appeal to the international rules-based order because he knows Trump doesn't care about rules. Carney went straight to the balance sheet. His strategy is what military strategists call asymmetric escalation. Trump attacks a symbol, the bridge. Carney attacks a system, the energy grid. Carney understands that Trump is a creature of the news cycle. Trump needs a win today. Carney is playing for the quarter. He is playing for the fiscal year. By threatening the energy corridor, Carney is targeting the donors who fund the Republican Party, the Koch industries, the refiners, the logistics giants. He is making them pick up the phone and call the White House. He is outsourcing the pressure. He is making Trump's own allies do the work for him. And there's something else, sovereignty. For years, Canadian leaders have been terrified of being called anti-American. They walk on eggshells. Carney seems to have decided that the best way to be pro-Canadian is to stop caring about what the U.S. president thinks. He is signaling a massive shift in Canadian foreign policy, the Donroe Doctrine, as some are calling it, named after the U.S. Monroe Doctrine, but reversed. The idea is we will sell to you, we will trade with you, but we will not be held hostage by your domestic politics anymore. If you close the door, we open a window to Europe. If you block the bridge, we turn off the valve. It is cold, it is calculated, and it is the first time in history that a Canadian prime minister has looked at an American president and said, go ahead, make my day. So what does this mean for you? Maybe you're watching this in Ohio. Maybe you're in Alberta. Maybe you're in California. This isn't just a political squabble. This is the end of the unguarded frontier. For 100 years, we lived with a myth. The myth that the U.S. and Canada were basically the same country with different flags, that the border was just a formality. That myth died this week. If this bridge dispute continues, we are looking at a permanent thickening of the border. It means prices for cars go up and stay up. Prices for gas in the Midwest become volatile. Food prices, especially in winter, skyrocket on both sides. But the bigger implication is geopolitical. If the United States cannot open a bridge with its closest ally, how can it lead the world? How can Washington tell Europe to trust them? How can they tell Taiwan they have their back? If they can't even staff a customs booth in Detroit because the president wants to score a political point, the Pax Americana is officially over. You are watching the U.S. retreat from being a global leader into being a regional bully. And the tragedy is the bully is losing. Mark Carney is showing the rest of the world the blueprint for how to handle a post-American America. You don't negotiate, you insulate, you build leverage, and you wait for them to fold. There was a moment yesterday that sums this whole thing up. Reporters caught Carney leaving Parliament Hill. A journalist from Fox News shouted a question at him. He asked, Mr. Prime Minister, are you worried that President Trump will slap a 25% tariff on the bridge tolls? Carney stopped. He didn't smile. He just adjusted his cufflink, looked at the reporter, and said, the bridge is built. The concrete is dry. We're opening it. Whether the Americans decide to show up for work is entirely up to them. And then he got in his car. That is the energy. We are moving forward. You can join us or you can stay behind. So where do we go from here? The clock is ticking. The bridge is physically ready. Scenario A. The quiet fold Wall Street calls the White House. The auto lobby calls the White House. They scream at Trump that he is about to cause a recession in Michigan 3 months before the primaries. Trump declares victory. He claims Canada agreed to some secret demand. Maybe they promised to buy a few more American apples or something irrelevant. He tweets, great deal with Canada, and the border agents are quietly sent to the booths. The bridge opens. Carney says nothing. He lets Trump have the fake win, but keeps the real victory. Scenario B, the escalation, the dangerous path. Trump's ego takes over. He feels humiliated by Carney's silence. He doubles down. He issues an executive order designating the bridge a national security threat. He deploys the National Guard to physically block the U.S. exit ramps. If this happens, Carney executes option C. The energy flows restrict. The Canadian ambassador is recalled for consultations. The Canadian dollar dips, but the U.S. Midwest economy goes into cardiac arrest. We are in a full-blown trade war that makes the 1930s look like a picnic. Scenario C, the pivot. This is the wild card. Carney uses this crisis to announce a massive new trade deal with the EU or China, signaling that Canada is permanently diversifying away from the U.S. He says, since the U.S. is no longer a reliable partner, we are prioritizing the Atlantic corridor. This would be a generational shift. It would mean Canada is effectively filing for divorce. Right now, looking at the silence from the White House, I think we're heading for scenario A. But with Trump, you never know when he's going to flip the table just to hear the glass shatter. This is history happening in real time. We used to think the Canada-U.S. relationship was like gravity. It just existed. It couldn't be broken. Donald Trump proved it can be broken. Mark Carney is proving it can be leveraged. The bridge is just steel and concrete. But what's happening around it is the story of a new world order where the United States is alone and Canada is finally standing up. I want to know what you think. Is Carney playing a dangerous game with the U.S. economy, or is this the only language Trump understands? If you were in Carney's shoes, would you turn off the oil? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you subscribe and hit the bell, because if that bridge opens or if it stays closed, you're going to need to know what happens to your wallet the next morning. I'm watching The Wires. I'll see you in the next one.